Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. New messages released from Gypsy to Nick Godejohn's parents are proving the case that Gypsy was being incredibly manipulative and controlling towards Nick, knowing that he was impaired in one way or another due to his autism and intellectual disabilities. She was clearly doing everything she could to manipulate even his family, his parents, into trusting her and believing that she was basically going to take care of him. My understanding is that it's Nick's dad, Mr. Godejohn, who's released these messages now, kind of giving us a peek into what he was dealing with and Nick's mom was dealing with at the time that all of this occurred, back a little ways before the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard. Okay? At that time, Gypsy went by the name Emma Rose on Facebook, and she was all over social media, navigating her way through Snapchat, Facebook, all kinds of different modalities of communicating with people outside of her small world with her mother. In this message, Emma Rose sends a plea to Mr. Godejohn in order to get him to trust her, to allow Nick to come to see her and spend time with her, to let the parents know that she was taking responsibility for him. Clearly, in these messages, she recognizes that he's someone who has to be taken care of. So let's read. Emma Rose says, "Hello, Mr. Godejohn. My name is Gypsy Rose. I'm Nick's girlfriend. I just wanted to formally introduce myself. It's nice to meet you. You have a wonderful son. He speaks highly of you, sir. Anyways, again, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, sir. Have a wonderful day." Okay, so this was sent on Facebook Messenger from Gypsy Rose to Nick's dad. All right, so first we see her right off the bat using words like sir, being incredibly polite, clearly trying to prime, if not even groom Nick's father into trusting her and to believing that his son would be totally fine interacting with this girl. Now, he has a son who probably has difficulty making friends. And at this point in time, she and Nick had been speaking to each other over the computer online for close to 2 years. Nick was believing this was a real special relationship for him. Meanwhile, we all know that Gypsy had other boyfriends. She was interacting with other men online and was clearly just looking for the right guy to perform this act of helping her escape from her mom and from her situation. She didn't believe she could do it herself. I do believe that she was being abused by her mother. And she wanted someone to do away with Dee Dee so that she could be free of that environment forever. And she wasn't brave enough or strong enough to do it on her own. She knew she needed someone malleable, pliable, someone that she could control, and Nick was the perfect candidate for all of this. The second message reads, "Hi, Mr. Bobby. I heard you and Nick's mom are worried about him traveling on his own. I can understand that, so if that's a big deal of concern, I will be paying for everything, including eating and gas money. If someone could drive Nick down here to Springfield, in my opinion, it's a small city. The reason Nick's coming is to visit me. We are going to see a movie together, Cinderella, on the 12th at 5 p.m. So we planned this trip for about 2 years because we wanted to see this movie and meet up for the first time. So I paid for a Greyhound bus ticket. Round trip, of course. But I can understand if you all are worried and only want Nick to stay safe." Okay, so this was when Nick was going to travel to see Gypsy and do the whole movie thing. And they were hoping to trick Gypsy's mother, Dee Dee, into liking him and believing that Gypsy had just met him out of nowhere at this movie theater. It's such an odd situation. Most of us know that Gypsy showed up in like a Cinderella dress in a wheelchair. She met Nick in the bathroom and something sexual happened between the two of them, although there are different stories about that. And Gypsy's mom, Dee Dee, ended up really disliking Nick, disliked him more than if he just would have walked up and been like, "I've been talking to your daughter for 2 years." She thought he was weird and creepy. Why was he hanging out there and randomly talking to her daughter? So the whole thing just made them look creepier than they even were in real life. And Dee Dee rejected Nick right off the bat, setting into motion this idea and this plan for Gypsy of needing to get rid of Dee Dee so she could escape and do what she wanted with her life. To me, these messages, I'm sure they were released by Bobby to kind of put out there and just show to everyone that Gypsy was aware of what was going on. She was aware that Nick had special needs, that he needed some form of help, that he needed to be taken care of. She's communicating with his parents like she's going to be a caregiver for him. She's clearly in control. She's clearly manipulating. She's the one with the money. She's the one with the plan. She tells him how to do everything. And I think it kind of gives a different perspective for me, for myself. It gives me this perspective of Nick really was just following orders, unfortunately. All right, thank you so much for joining me to go over these messages. I'm going to include some really interesting TikToks I've been watching about Gypsy lately. I think it's just kind of fun to scroll through them, so feel free to stick around and check those out. I hope I will see you again tomorrow as we head down another rabbit hole.
Conditions and ability. Gypsy Rose Blanchard confirms split with husband. Here's what we know. Gypsy Rose Blanchard announced on Facebook that she and her husband Ryan Scott Anderson are calling it quits less than 3 months after she was released from prison. As a reminder, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is famous due to her involvement in a highly publicized case of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, lied about Gypsy's medical conditions and abilities, feeding her medicine to make her sick, shaving her daughter's head, and even forcing her to be wheelchair-bound for years. This led to unnecessary medical treatments for Gypsy and public sympathy for her mom. In 2015, after discovering her mom has been lying to her whole life and making her sick, Gypsy conspired with her then-boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, to murder her mother, citing years of abuse. Gypsy served more than 8 years in prison. She told 2020 she felt freer in prison than she did living with her mom. Gypsy then met her current husband Ryan Anderson when he wrote a letter to her in prison in 2020. Gypsy and Anderson then had a jailhouse wedding in July 2022. Following her release from prison on December 28th, she became a viral sensation. Millions showed their support for Gypsy on TikTok and celebrated her release and quote post-prison glow. She appeared on multiple talk shows with her husband and people commented how in love they seemed. However, soon after, fans noticed she deleted all photos and videos of her husband from her TikTok. She has since then deleted all public social media. Thursday night, Blanchard announced the split in a post on her private Facebook account. Quote, "People have been asking what is going on in my life. Unfortunately, my husband and I are going through a separation. I have the support of my family and friends to guide me through this. Right now, I need time to let myself find who I am."
And you know what? I had absolutely no trouble or doubts of deleting that public one. And I have people that are like, oh my God, you're insane for deleting that kind of a following. And I'm like, I could give a F about a following. That's not real life.
That's what I'm looking forward to. And then we'll get in my car and drive home. And I actually plan to take off work for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just to get her fully adjusted. We got things we got to do. We got to see her parole officer. We got to get her an ID, Louisiana ID.
Oh, good Lord, Gypsy Rose. Y'all, allegedly, this is Gypsy and Ken, her ex-fiance. This article that was announcing separation of Gypsy Rose and her husband Ryan, that's from March 29th, okay? In that article from March 29th, it says she confirmed on social media this week. March 29th was last week. So just little days ago, she let us know the fire was not so fire. And now she's at a tattoo shop with Ken, a man she was allegedly engaged to while she was in prison, before she was engaged to Ryan while she was in prison. Maybe they're just best friends. Maybe this is the first time they get to hang out and be friends since she's out and she's no longer married. She's just separated freshly. I just hope they didn't get best friend tattoos together. I am very curious what his tattoo is, and did Gypsy get one? Does anybody know that? I know Gypsy doesn't look like she's getting a tattoo right here, but just curious minds want to know. I think I have more empathy than most people want me to for Gypsy. I can't help that. I feel like she was under Dee Dee in a messed up situation for a long time. Then she wasn't. Then she was in prison. I would just love for her to get a chance at knowing herself and living a normal life, but there's just some stumbles maybe, you know? Just get to know you, Gypsy.